You call it love. But what if I told you it's the cage you built with your own hands? By the end of this video, you'll understand why the very thing you crave most is the reason you can't breathe, and why breaking free feels like betrayal. Stay, because the last truth I'm about to reveal will change the way you see every relationship you've ever had. By the end of this 30-minute journey, you'll see why what you call love has become your cage. If honest, I know that promise already presses against the bruise you keep hidden beneath polite smiles. You wake beside someone, or beside no one, and still feel a hollow throb behind the ribs, a quiet panic that every embrace is borrowed time. The calendar insists you are living, working, loving, yet every tender gesture lands like a feather on concrete, weightless, unable to pierce the void beneath. Part of you whispers that the fault must live in your chest, that you were assembled without the wiring required for genuine closeness, and that this emptiness is simply your destiny. I am not here to stitch that wound with pretty phrases. I will not tell you to chant affirmations or paint a brighter dawn over a night that still howls. Instead, I name the raw pulse of heartbreak that keeps beating even when the world demands gratitude. I honor the confusion that flares when affection turns to obligation, when care spirals into control, when the one who swore to cherish you begins to weigh your worth in obedience. You are not fragile for feeling trapped by the very force that ballads celebrate as salvation. You are awake enough to notice the bars. Stay with me. Notice how your shoulders brace at the word love, how your breath shortens at the memory of promises that curdled into rules. Sense the child inside who learned that approval arrives only after self-abandonment. Hear the rebel who keeps the emptiness alive because emptiness feels safer than another betrayal. Let both find a seat at this table. No voice will be exiled here. Most voices rush to fix you. I choose the opposite. I hold the silence long enough for the wound to spell its own sentences across your bones. Let the ache reveal that the price for belonging has been your freedom. Feel how heavy that bargain settles in the gut, like cold metal against warm skin. Feel the grief of years spent serving someone else's story about love while your own remained untold. And still, this is only the surface. Beneath the familiar pain lies a pattern older than your earliest memory, a hidden mechanism that reforges the same invisible chains each time the heart reaches out. But there is an even darker truth ahead. Most psychologists will not tell you this, but the slogan that love heals all sounds gentle while acting like a straitjacket. It drapes itself over broken hearts in pastel colors, singing lullabies about redemption, yet underneath the melody hides a command: stay quiet, stay grateful. Do not speak of the splinters still lodged under the skin. Every time someone repeats that mantra, the unspoken message lands in your nervous system like a verdict. If you still hurt, you must be doing love wrong. The result is shame layered on top of pain, a double weight that leaves you clinging to the very chains that cut your wrists. Self-help shelves overflow with glossy covers promising quick fixes. They tell you to love yourself harder, visualize abundance, affirm your worth until the mirror stops arguing back. The bright typography distracts from a quiet omission, the shadow side, the part of you that never learned the language of unconditional acceptance. Those books rarely mention the night terrors of abandonment encoded in your body since childhood, or the icy grip around the heart that tightens when someone says stay. Feel-good quotes circulate on social feeds like sugar packets, momentarily sweet on the tongue, nutritionally vacant for the soul. They keep you chasing the next hit of inspiration instead of sitting with the raw data of your history. Here is the hidden mechanism. Long before you spoke your first word, your nervous system mapped safety to the availability of the adults around you. Every unmet need carved a groove inside the brain, like a riverbed that still directs the water decades later. When a caregiver ignored your cries, the body registered abandonment as annihilation, because for an infant, survival depends on connection. Fast forward to adulthood. You reach out for affection, believing you pursue intimacy, yet the deeper drive is to seal those ancient cracks. Love becomes a rescue mission staged by the inner child who still waits at the window for someone to return. The slightest spark of attention floods the system with relief, not because you found a soulmate, but because for a fleeting moment, the wound feels covered. Most therapists gloss over this repetition compulsion, or they name it once and move on to cognitive strategies. They reassure you that healthier communication will fix the pattern. Communication helps, but it cannot rewrite a nervous system still wired to equate abandonment with death. The body keeps score, and it keeps you returning to the familiar pain because familiar equals predictable, and predictable feels safer than the unknown. That is why you choose partners who mirror the original absence, why you overfunction to keep the peace, why you suffocate under the weight of your own caregiving. You are not weak. You are loyal to survival instructions etched during your most vulnerable years. The love heals all narrative fails because it demands transcendence while ignoring biology. It asks you to pour tenderness over concrete and expect roses to bloom. The mind may recite affirmations, but the gut still contracts when footsteps fade in the hallway. The heart still spikes when a text goes unanswered. The old alarm bells override the new philosophy, and then shame storms in, insisting you have sabotaged yourself again. Shame is not the saboteur. It is the guard dog of the wound, barking to keep anyone from touching the bruised place. Feel-good culture also sells the myth that positivity alone attracts healthy love, turning relationship success into a moral scoreboard. If you suffer, the subtext claims you must be vibrating at a low frequency. That message weaponizes hope, making your pain proof of personal failure. It turns healing into a privilege for those who can afford the luxury of constant optimism. Meanwhile, grief remains homeless, anger remains forbidden, despair remains shamed into silence. The shadow grows stronger whenever it is ignored. I will name what the posters never print. Real love hurts sometimes because it exposes the parts of us that were never loved properly. It drags those parts into the light, raw and blinking, demanding care. Healing begins not with more sunshine, but with honest weather reports, storms, droughts, earthquakes in the psyche that need witnessing. Love as liberation starts with allowing every feeling, especially the ugly ones, to belong. Anything less becomes performance, a gilded cage designed to impress the world while starving the soul. You may feel a rising nausea right now, the stomach flipping at the thought that the romance you cherish could be reenacting abandonment scripts. This is not a call to abandon love. It is a call to unmask the contract you signed unconsciously. The contract reads, "I will betray myself so you never leave." Tear that paper in half, let the ash drift. The ache that follows proves you just reclaimed a piece of yourself. Most psychologists will not tell you this, but your longing is sacred precisely because it reveals the place still aching for mother arms, father eyes, friend presence. That ache is not weakness. It is a compass pointing to unmet needs. Follow it, and you step beyond slogans into the rough terrain where real intimacy is forged. Stay close. In a moment, we will descend further, because there is something even more frightening than abandonment, and naming it opens the first crack in the walls of your prison. If the moment you saw yourself bargaining away your soul for a scrap of affection still burns in your chest, subscribe now, so this raw truth can break through the walls of every silent bedroom, reaching those who do not yet know their longing is a cage, not a cure for them. Stay with the breath for a moment and let the last insight settle. The wound the child carried forward has been named, yet naming alone does not dissolve the pull of the familiar pattern. Now we turn the lantern inward and watch the machinery at work. This is the long corridor most teachings avoid, because every step here dismantles a convenient fantasy. Imagine your heart as an iron gate you yourself keep locked. Each bar is forged from a belief hammered into place before you could reason. The first bar reads, "I must be perfect to be held." The next says, "I must perform to stay safe." Another whispers, "If I speak my anger, love disappears." None of these sentences belong to present-day reality, yet every clang of metal reminds the nervous system that captivity equals security. This is the Jungian shadow in daily clothing. Carl Jung used the word shadow to describe the collection of disowned qualities that trail us like a silhouette in moonlight. Because the child was praised for obedience but scolded for rage, obedience moved into the spotlight while rage slipped behind the curtain. Because tenderness felt dangerous in a household of ridicule, tenderness retreated underground and hardened into cynicism. The Iron Gate is no mystery novel. It is the ledger of traits society once rejected in you, and you dutifully hid them to survive. Attachment trauma gives the gate its hinges. Long before language, the body recorded that proximity equals life. When comfort arrived inconsistently, the body interpreted unpredictability as a death threat. Out of sheer brilliance, the child's brain produced coping styles. Anxious clinging said, "If I stay close and hyper-attentive, I can predict the next storm." Avoidant distancing said, "If I detach before you reject me, I own the exit." Disorganized churning said, "Safety lives in chaos because chaos feels familiar." These patterns were not character flaws. They were life-saving algorithms. The tragedy appears when adult intimacy requests vulnerability, and the old algorithm overrides new data. Someone smiles warmly, yet the body shouts, "Danger." Someone steps back for air, and every cell recalls the nursery gone silent. The gate slams shut before the mind can protest. Sigmund Freud observed a strange tendency in his patients. People reenact early suffering instead of escaping it. He called this repetition compulsion. The psyche recreates the trauma scene, almost frame by frame, as if auditioning for a different ending. You choose partners who mirror dismissive caregivers, workplaces that echo childhood hierarchy, friendships where you give more than you receive. Part of you hopes that this time the other will stay, this time the voice will soothe, this time the wound will close. When history repeats, despair deepens, and the gate bars feel thicker than ever. The compulsion is not self-destruction, it is mastery pursued in the only language the nervous system understands. The child mind believes if it can perfect the original script, the past will rewrite itself. Yet the past is not a storybook. It is stored electricity in the nerves, firing every time present reality resembles yesterday's storm. Here is the paradox that challenges most modern teachings. Healing does not come from prying the gate open with force, nor from drowning the bars in surface love. Healing begins when you sit beside the iron and acknowledge its purpose. Acceptance feels counterintuitive. Instinct pushes to fix, purge, replace. However, the psyche interprets fixing as rejection of the wounded part. When you say, "I must eliminate my anxiety," the anxious child hears, "You are still too much." When you declare, "I will never feel sad again," the grieving child hears, "Your tears cost me love." Acceptance speaks a different sentence. It leans against the gate and says, "You kept me alive when I knew no other way." In that moment, the part of you that has guarded the fortress for decades finally exhales. The bars do not dissolve yet, but their cold surface warms under the breath of recognition. Most teachings sprint past this stage because acceptance is slow and messy, and slow messiness sells poorly. Quick fixes sparkle, yet nothing sustainable happens until the parts at war feel witnessed. Acceptance is not passivity, it is the groundwork for transformation. By recognizing the loyalty of the shadow, you invite it to serve a new contract. The rage once hidden can become boundary setting. The cling once shamed can become devotion. The skepticism once demonized can become discernment. But this alchemy unfolds only after the initial bow to the shadow's service. Notice how the tension inside eases and tightens in waves. The nervous system is testing whether this exploration is safe. In the culture of quick relief, discomfort feels like failure. Here, discomfort signals progress. It means energy long frozen has started to thaw. Midway through this journey comes a revelation that many consider heresy. Pain is not the opposite of love. Pain is the proof that love mattered. Every ache in the chest, every contraction in the stomach, every tremor in the hands announces that something precious was missed or lost. Pain is the echo of love unfulfilled. Therefore, to banish pain is to amputate the message of what matters most. Let the next image rise. Picture yourself standing inside a dim cathedral. Stained glass windows show scenes of your life: first heartbreak, silent dinners, nights you wept alone. Sunlight pierces the glass, sending colored shards across the floor. Those shards are not only sorrow, they are the brilliance of your capacity to care. Each hue marks a hope that still wants expression. Walk slowly across the floor. Notice which colors you avoid. Perhaps the crimson shard reminds you of anger, because anger once ended connection. Perhaps the indigo shard recalls grief that drowned a parent in their own despair. As you step closer, the shards sharpen underfoot. This sting is memory surfacing. Instead of fleeing, kneel. Place your palm on the glass and feel its chill. Speak to it without questions. Say, "I remember." Say, "I see the cost." Say, "You do not have to scream, I am listening." The cathedral walls are your ribcage. The windows are neural pathways illuminated by attention. Pause. Breathe. The air shifts. Earlier I promised another revelation in the center of this descent. Here it comes like a hush before thunder. The gate you keep locked was never meant to open from the outside. No lover, mentor, or healer can lift that latch for you. They may hold lanterns, but the hinge responds only to the hand that forged it. This truth dismantles the fantasy of rescue that often fuels repetition compulsion. Rescue keeps you small. Ownership returns sovereignty. Ownership demands accountability for inner experience without self-blame. Accountability states, "These bars were necessary once, and I remain responsible for deciding whether they still serve." Self-blame sneers, "You ruined your life by building a cage." Blame corrodes. Accountability restores agency. Agency feels foreign if the child lived under control. At first it tastes like disorientation. Eventually, it tastes like breath. The psyche employs two main strategies to avoid this disorientation: denial and distraction. Denial insists the relationship is fine, the tension is normal, the body's alarms are melodramatic. Distraction floods the calendar with tasks, conversations, entertainment. Both strategies keep the gate untouched. The paradox reappears. Relief arrives only through feeling what was forbidden. The body longs for completion of survival responses frozen in childhood. Tears unfinished need release. Shivers suppressed need shaking. A growl held behind clenched teeth needs sound. Acceptance opens the space for these discharges. The intellect often labels them regression. In truth, they are completion. Gently bring awareness to the jaw. Sense any clench. That clench may carry words swallowed decades ago. Breathe into the masseter muscle and allow micro-vibration. This is not a performance. It is biology rebalancing. Now place a palm on the sternum, right over the iron gate. Inhale slowly while imagining the ribs widening sideways. Exhale with a sigh that vibrates the breastbone. The vibration sends a message to the vagus nerve, present moment safety. Each sigh sands a fraction of rust from the bars. At this midpoint, tension spikes again. The mind protests, "If I accept pain, I will drown." Here is the hidden reversal. Resisting pain drains life force. Meeting pain releases it. Neuroscience calls this exposure with integration. Somatic experiencing calls it titration. Spiritual traditions call it sitting by the fire until the fire recognizes you. Different languages, same map. Presence overpowers exile. Stay within the cathedral image. A second set of windows appears high above, depicting scenes you have yet to live. Beneath one window, a new relationship unfolds without the need to bargain. Beneath another, solitude feels like spaciousness, not exile. Beneath a third, creativity pours freely because criticism no longer paralyzes. These images are not promises, they are potentials. Potential requires passage through the nave of grief and into the altar of self-witness. The ceremony happens when you stand before the gate, place both palms on cool iron, and whisper gratitude for its faithful watch. Gratitude is not approval of captivity, it is acknowledgement of service. Only after that acknowledgement does the latch respond. Feel the hinge loosen. It may not swing wide tonight, it may move the width of a breath. That breath is victory. Remember, progress measures itself in nervous system capacity, not in dramatic life changes. A huge leap taken from a contracted state often snaps back. Sustainable freedom unfolds in increments the body can integrate. Another surge of tension arrives. This time it carries anticipation. The psyche senses we approach the core. The next revelation stalks just beyond the threshold, and its name is responsibility for choice. Choice extends beyond selecting partners. Choice reaches into the microsecond between sensation and reaction. When the gate trembles at a perceived slight, choice offers two paths. One path rushes into the old defense, slams the bars, rehearses abandonment. The other path pauses to feel the contraction, washes it in breath, and wonders what a heart feels like when unlocked. Wonder here is not a question. Wonder is a silent expansion that invites new wiring. From a clinical angle, this pause interrupts the feedback loop between amygdala surge and prefrontal override. From a poetic angle, the pause turns the clanging gate into a wind chime singing of dawn. Both descriptions point to the same doorway: neuroplasticity. The brain rewires through repetition of novel choice. Each time the latch remains loose, the nervous system records safety. In time, the old algorithm loses priority. Let skepticism sit beside you. Skepticism wonders if this is merely another theoretical balm. Offer it data. Recall the moments when you cried without armor and someone stayed. Recall the minutes after a deep exhale when the world looked softer, though circumstances remained unchanged. These memories are proof that your system can taste safety. Expand the taste, forkful by forkful, until the body grows accustomed. We approach the final bend of this descent, yet the journey does not conclude here. The deepest chamber contains the truth that even love earned honestly will trigger the shadow. Healthy intimacy does not erase old imprints. It offers a laboratory to practice new responses. Conflict still arises. Fear still pricks. The difference lies in capacity to stay present without collapsing into compulsion. Presence allows conflict to evolve into deeper trust, and fear to transform into clarity about needs. This chamber no longer treats pain as evidence of failure. It treats pain as feedback, guiding refinement. The heart gate shifts from prison door to threshold, marking the sacred boundary between self and other. It can open and close with intention, not reflex. Before we surface, pause once more in the cathedral. The colored shards have fused into a mosaic beneath your feet. The iron gate stands at the exit, slightly ajar. A faint breeze carries the scent of earth after rain. That breeze is autonomy mingling with connection. It says, you belong to yourself first, and from that belonging springs every genuine bond. Remember, one final discovery still waits beyond this hall, more startling than anything revealed yet, and its light will illuminate a practice so simple it feels impossible. Breathe, ground, and meet me on the other side. Breathe with me now, slow and steady, because we are about to turn discovery into action. Insight alone lights the room, Yet these tools move your body through the doorway. First, the shadow work tracking. Choose a memory where the word love felt heavy. Maybe you were praised for self-sacrifice. Maybe silence was rewarded with a hug. Maybe your tears were met with cold distance, and you learned to smile instead. Settle on one clear scene. Close your eyes and name the age you carried that day, spoken in full words, not digits. Describe aloud the setting, the smell, the texture of the moment, then whisper the unspoken contract that formed. Perhaps it sounded like, "If I stay small, they stay close." Write that sentence down. Feel the tug in your stomach as the ink dries, evidence that love was redefined as safety at any cost. Now trace the lineage forward. List 3 later situations where you replayed the same contract. See the echoes: a partner demanding constant reassurance, a friend leaning on your strength while ignoring your tears, a boss who praised your overwork. Circle the common thread. That circle names the bar of the gate forged by this contract. The purpose is not blame. The purpose is clarity, so the pattern can no longer hide in fog. Next, the somatic release. Sit upright, feet flat, spine tall, yet loose. Place one hand on the center of your chest, the other on the lower ribs. Inhale through the nose, as if you are sipping air from the base of the spine up to the collarbones. Hold for the length of a heartbeat counted in your own slow inner rhythm. On the exhale, release with an audible sigh, letting sound vibrate against the sternum. Repeat 6 slow cycles. During each exhale, imagine a faint rust flaking off the inner side of that iron gate. If a memory or emotion surfaces, acknowledge it with a quiet, "I feel you," and keep breathing. After the 6th sigh, bring both hands to the heart center, fingers overlapping, and apply gentle pressure as if you are steadying a drum. Hum on a low pitch, letting the vibration travel beneath the bone. The vagus nerve reads this hum as present moment safety, allowing trapped currents of fear or grief to move rather than freeze. When the hum ends, remain still for several breaths, noticing any warmth, tingling, or softening. These sensations mark the nervous system accepting new instructions. Anchor the practice. Choose a daily cue, a morning cup of water, the moment you sit in the car, the instant your computer wakes. Pair that cue with 3 breath and hum cycles. Consistency rewires the gate's hinges more surely than any dramatic breakthrough. If you see yourself here, comment, "I refuse my cage," and let's form the circle of those brave enough to stay. Your words become a lantern for the next traveler who still thinks their prison is private. Together, we testify that pain can speak, contracts can be rewritten, iron can remember its origin in molten freedom. This is only the beginning.